We don't know what's going to happen in 2021, but if it's anything like 2020, we definitely need to keep preparing. And there's three things in particular that I'm preparing for in 2021. So stick around for the rest of the video. We'll talk about what those three things are going to be and how I'm preparing for them so that maybe you can get some ideas about what you should be doing as well. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about the top three things you need to prepare for in 2021. I'm preparing for them, and I'm going to share a little bit about how I'm preparing for them so that maybe you can get some ideas about what you should be doing before these things come to fruition. And if you're preparing for things to possibly even be worse than what we've experienced here in 2020, hit the subscribe button below because we know things could definitely keep spiraling in the same way they are right now, and we want to stay prepared as a community and as a network so that we can be as well off as possible in case things just ever get to that point of a full-on SHTF scenario, okay? So the third thing is we're going to go 3, 2, 1 in this video so that you guys can see my level of importance here. But the third thing on the list of the top three things that I'm preparing for to happen in 2021 is going to be medical compliance, okay? And when I say that, I'm saying that medical compliance requirements are going to be pushed on the people in one way or another, as they already are being pushed right now. And we know that recently the Department of Defense actually showed us a preview of our new ID style cards that are going to let everyone know that we're medically compliant in order to do whatever it is we need to do during our daily routine. So what does that mean? Well, you might need your medical compliance card to let everyone know that you're safe to go to work. Maybe you're safe to go to school. Maybe you're safe to travel. There's a lot of things that that card could definitely designate for whether or not you can or can't do something. And anytime you get limited on your ability to move freely between earning an income, between gaining an education, or between just traveling around the country to either visit people or maybe network or who knows, meet up with other preppers, those are things we need to definitely be aware of because that is an issue that we have to watch out for now. And medical compliance is something you should be preparing for. Now, how am I preparing for medical compliance? Well, first off, I'm preparing mentally by deciding what it is I am and am not willing to do now so that when those decisions have to be made, I can make them correctly. Now, one of the best things I did to prepare for something like this medical compliance issue that I didn't even realize I was necessarily preparing for at the time is moving out of a highly populated area. We left the East Bay area of California for rural western North Dakota back in 2018. So I relocated to be in a better situation financially and to be in a better situation in the sense of preparedness. A much lower population equates to less restrictions when it comes to your ability to live more freely. And in this current environment, I'm seeing that front and center. That right now, due to the fact that I have a low population, everything is less restricted for me than it would have been back in California, as we all know. So maybe relocating is a good idea for you and your family at this point in time, especially if you're not willing to comply with more and more medical compliance that is on its way. The other thing I've done to prepare for medical compliance here in 2021 is made sure that I had the appropriate PPE so that if things ever get to a certain situation where that's required for me to access resources that are necessary, I have the ability to do so. Whether or not you agree with certain forms of PPE, you might need to use them in order to access something that you might require. And when I say that, what I mean is, let's say there's a pharmacy that you have to get medication at to keep your grandmother alive. But the only way to enter that pharmacy legally here in the future is to wear some sort of PPE that grants you access to that facility. Are you going to either deny that PPE in order to maintain what it is you have in the sense of your own personal choice and personal freedom, or are you going to adorn the PPE and help your grandmother receive her medication? Those are things you have to answer for yourself. Now, I have the appropriate PPE to be able to acquire resources if that becomes an issue here in the future. Whether or not I agree with it doesn't make a difference because I do agree with the concept of capitalism and a business having the right to refuse business to anyone that they don't want to give business to. And if that's what they want to do, that's what they're going to do, and capitalism will work itself out. However, if I need to access that business, and it's the difference of survival for me or somebody that I care about, then I will figure out a way to access that business, okay? So that's something you need to prepare for mentally and, in the sense of gear and equipment now, so that you can comply if need be, or not comply if that's what you decide to do. And you'll understand when those scenarios come up, how you prioritize the level of importance there, okay? So that is the third thing on this list. The second thing that I'm preparing for in 2021 that you need to watch out for and that is going to be an issue here, especially based on the current trajectory of our politics, is gun control. Gun control is becoming a serious issue, and it's not just about the fact that somebody else might end up here in the White House soon. Might is a possibility. Could end up in the White House here soon, especially with a vice president that is very anti-2A, from a state that I used to live in that was very hard to deal with when you're pro 2A. That is a real possibility. Not only is the White House situation an issue, but so is this rogue entity, also known as the ATF. This is a real situation that you're dealing with here in this aspect of gun control. And you might say something like, well, Magic Prepper, why is gun control that big of a threat? Why is that something you're really preparing for? Aren't you more worried about EMPs? Aren't you worried about more things like CMEs or something like that? Well, check this out. Gun control can lead to a lot of different things, but first and foremost, it leads to your inability to choose options for your self-protection that you may or may not require. Things that you might want to have, you might not be able to access. Things you feel you might need to give yourself peace of mind, you might not be able to have. And these are things that you shouldn't have to deal with when it comes to something as simple as basic self-defense. Now, quick overview. If Joe Biden gets into the White House, his whole situation is that he's going to probably try to do some kind of an assault weapons ban, whatever that means, a high capacity magazine ban, whatever that means, and then a buyback program of sorts that will probably be mandatory. He's also going to eliminate things like online sales, which is very important, add some extra tax stamps to basic items to price you out of the game, and probably utilize rogue entities like the ATF to do even more damage than what they're already doing. And when I say that is if you're not paying attention to what's happening in the 2A community, the ATF just recently raided Polymer 80, which means your access to different firearms components is going to be more limited. They're also on the attack when it comes to SB Tactical, who is the largest producer of pistol braces out there and allows you and I to own AR pistols legally with our braces on them to make sure that we can more safely utilize the platform. So that entity, even under the current administration, is already going out there and trying to eliminate our ability and our freedom to acquire what it is we want when it comes to Second Amendment related items. So how am I preparing for gun control situations here in 2021? Acquire what it is you need now. Acquire what it is you feel you might need in the future now. Do I have additional lowers? Yes, I do. Am I building new projects? Yes, I am. Because I want to make sure I can get the components I need now before they become an issue here in the future. And after living in California, and living under the handgun roster there, and living under the magazine restrictions there, and living under the rifle style restrictions there, I've decided I want to make sure I have access to what it is I want before I ever have to find myself in that same situation in the future. Whether or not something's unconstitutional doesn't mean it won't be in high demand and low supply. So that's something we need to consider now. Acquire what it is you think you might need here in the future. And especially when it comes to things like lowers, where you can build something else here in the future that might be more ideal for your situation, just get that now because it's not that expensive and you can get the paperwork done, you can get what you need out of the way, and then you can build what you need later on without having to jump through as much red tape. So those are things we need to consider. Magazines are also important because if they want to throw a tax stamp of up to $200 per magazine, you'll be priced out of the game, and so will I, and we will be very unhappy about that. The other side of gun control, and this is just something you want to watch out for, if people push too hard when it comes to the Second Amendment, they push gun control too hard, this could create a conflict within our country, which is an SHTF scenario we have to prepare for as well. So that's one of the reasons why you also want to watch out for gun control. It's not just about being able to acquire the equipment or the gear that you might want right now. It's also about what that repercussion might have if things go a little too far. We all know what that means, and it's definitely something we have to watch out for. And one thing I just want to mention is that you're not sure about this whole gun control plan that might be coming into place here soon. Mr. Guns and Gear did a great video about it, trying to explain every facet of the proposed plan that might be coming into place. So I will link something to that video down in the description or the pinned comment, just so you guys have an idea of what you are looking at here in the future if you're not really sure about it right now. Okay, so moving forward, the number one threat, the number one thing that I'm preparing for in 2021, the thing that I'm most concerned about and that you should be the most concerned about too, is marauders. I'm kidding. It's not marauders. It's financial instability. Financial instability is going to be the biggest issue we're all going to face in 2021. And it doesn't matter if you are well off right now. It doesn't matter if you're poor right now. Either way, this financial instability is going to cause ripples throughout the entire structure of our society that is going to affect you in one form or another. What does this mean? Well, first off, the instability is obvious. We know what the pandemic has done to the economy. We know what that looks like for us as people are trying to be prepared. We have unemployment through the roof. We have businesses closing. We have a market bubble that hasn't burst yet, that eventually has to burst, that has been floating around for the last 13 plus years, that we know is not going to last. And these are things that are going to come to a culmination at some point and eventually collapse. And we can expect a lot of that to happen this next year, because if there is a leadership change and the market doesn't correct itself and people don't get back to work, it's just going to continually get worse. And unfortunately, in my opinion, a lot of the damage has been done and cannot be repaired. It's easier to damage than it is to repair. Breaking everything down the way we did this year is a lot easier to do and takes a lot less time than building it all back up. And just expecting things to go back to being hunky-dory here in 2021 is a bad idea. So you need to prepare now for financial instability in the sense of, are you going to have a job tomorrow? Do you have job security? Do you need to start looking for another job? Do you need to have a second job? Do you need to find more supplemental income? Do you need to have a different backup plan for what happens if you lose all of your income? These are things you have to think about now and decide now. And it's the number one thing that I'm concerned about and preparing for here in 2021. Now, what I will say is that financial instability can lead to all kinds of stuff. It can lead to more unrest, it can lead to more conflict, it can lead to violence, it can lead to all kinds of things that we have to watch out for as preppers, which also goes back to the gun control, which also goes back to the medical compliance and everything else, of course. But that being said, what am I doing? What am I doing to prepare for this financial instability? Well, just like I'm preparing for things like, the gun control, where I'm acquiring things like this upper here that I'm building now so that I have access to the quality components I want, I'm going to prepare as if I don't have a financial future in the same sense that I have right now. So that way, if I can't access it later on in 2021, I'll have gotten things out of the way now here in 2020, or at least right before, or right in the beginning of 2021. So what is it I'm doing? Well, I'll just tell you guys so that way you know and you have an idea of maybe some strategy that you can think about now. Right now, I'm still employed. Right now, I still have an income. Right now, I still have a situation in place where I can do something. And what I mean by that is that I'm probably going to try to buy a property. I'm going to buy a home. I'm going to buy something so I can put myself in a more secure situation, a more stable situation. I'm going to put some money down, get into a living situation where I can afford to be there. And even if the plug gets pulled on my current income situation, I can then still figure out ways to afford that less expensive, possibly lesser quality home, because I can then make sure to fall back on that. And it's not a rental, it's not a landlord situation, it is my place that I have more stability and security in, because I can qualify to find it now. I can get it now. While I have an income and while I have the ability to put money down on something like that, I need to do it now. So that way here in the future in 2021, if that all goes away suddenly, I'm not sold out of luck. I'm not suddenly just, trying to figure out a different rental situation, trying to figure out a different place to live or anything like that. Owning that property. Yes, we all know that a mortgage isn't owning. We all know that taxes mean you never truly own. However, I don't want to live in a rental situation now where a landlord might eventually decide that I either need to pay more to live there, that I either shouldn't live there anymore. Maybe they have the financial struggles where they have to fall back into where they used to live and live there now, or whatever it might be, selling the property possibly because they can't afford it anymore and they need to get rid of it. There's a million things that can happen when you don't own your own property, and that ownership can give you a little bit more stability, a little bit more security, and that's why I'm pushing to do that right now. So that's how I'm preparing for a financial instability situation in 2021. It sounds counterintuitive, but in all actuality, it's more stable than the situation I'm currently in, and that's why I'm pushing for it while I have the resources to be able to do so. And these are things you need to consider. These are things you need to think about now before you find yourself on the wrong side of your current income stream. okay? And for those of you who've lost your income, or for those of you who have had your income affected by this whole situation we're all in, I am sorry to hear what's happened to you, and I honestly hope you find a way to better yourself and come out of this situation even better than before. So let's try to keep preparing together. Let's try to maintain our community, and let's try to remember that everybody's situation is completely different. However, we need to approach these different things that are coming our way in the best way possible. And I know it's hard. Medical compliance, okay, so I need to figure out if I'm gonna do that or not. I also need to get some PPE. Wait, PPE costs money. Okay, gun control, I need to get some guns and stuff before everything falls apart and I can't access what I want. However, that's gonna cost a lot of money, and building uppers and stuff like that costs a lot of money. Okay, oh, financial instability, I need to save money and put money in the bank and make sure I have extra money, and then I also should buy a house because, just need to make sure I have a place before it becomes an issue where I don't have a place, but that also costs a lot of money. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? This is difficult. This isn't just easy. It's not something we can all just turn a key on and be easily able to do, but it's something we need to really think about and try to do now. So hopefully the top 3 things I'm preparing for in 2021 helps you prepare as well. And I'm here for you. I appreciate every single one of you, and I think we're gonna get through this next year together in a positive way, but we have to prepare for things, because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves scratching our heads wondering what just happened, okay? Let's not do that. Let's know what happened, because we already talked about it, we already prepared for it before it ever happened. So anything else to add, leave it in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are when it comes to what you're preparing for in 2021. And if you ever need anything from me, magicprepper.com. Reach me on the contact form. I'll do my best to get back to you. But besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.